Hi, this is John St. Clair, and I'm here at the University of Mary Washington College of Graduate and Professional Studies in the office of Dr. Suzanne de Janasz. And we're going to talk about interactivity and experiential learning in online classes. Suzanne, I know you're a longtime teacher and have developed many online courses. I'm wondering how you've seen and experienced the growth and maturity of online learning over the years.
Well, John, when I was first asked to teach online, I was at my previous university. It was the year 2000. I was teaching, among other courses, organizational behavior. And in my eyes, this is a very hands-on, experiential, role-play, simulation, case study, discussion-based kind of course. And when I was asked to teach this online, mostly online, I thought, can't be done. Just can't do it. So I started doing some research, looking at what others have done in this area. And one thing that I came to find out, speaking of the evolution, I think initially online courses were really correspondence courses of old that were now evolved into, instead of sending your assignment via USPS, you sent it via email. And it's pathetic. I thought it was truly pathetic.
Right.
There was no interactivity. There was no opportunity for the students to learn with one another because, frankly, in my classes, and more importantly in the MBA courses, students learn from one another as much as they learn from me, if not more. So the way I've seen it evolve is I had to kind of challenge myself and push the envelope. How can you get students to interact? How can you give them the opportunities to experience and not just read about, but experience the kind of concepts and skills that are so critical in today's environment, in an MBA program? And I started thinking, well, let me see if I can push the envelope. And what I found is that one of the big components that makes one online program more successful than the other is the social interaction. You might know, and I'm familiar with the research, that the attrition rate in online programs is much higher than it is in traditional programs. And I've talked to students who've left these online programs, and that's what they've said. They're missing the social component. They're missing the opportunity to learn side by side with one another. So that really is what guided my thought process and my practice in online teaching to where it is today. So what I thought I might share with other listeners is kind of different ways that you can involve the students, get them engaged in the learning process, even though you're not face-to-face.
So could you give us some examples of these activities?
Sure. Now I must say this, that again, depending on who is looking at this video, technology does make a difference. So over the years there have been some programs that have appeared that make online learning better when these programs are available. So for example, back when there was just email, that's all we had, back and forth, programs like Blackboard and WebCT, etc. have raised the bar of interactivity. At my previous school, we used a program called Centra Symposium, which enables students, many students, to be online at the same time, synchronously, and they are participating in a conversation. For example, I might say, well, here's an issue, what do you think about that? And students will raise their hands electronically, and I can call on them. I'd say, well, you know what, this is such an interesting topic. Let's talk about this in small groups. In the same way I do in a regular classroom, people are more likely to open up and talk and give their opinions in a small group than in a large group discussion. So in this program, and I think there are other programs out there.
Illuminate, Adobe Connect, several.
Exactly. I can put them in breakout rooms. I could say, okay, I can do it randomly, or I could say, John, I want you to work with Sarah. Boom, you're in this room. And as a faculty member, excuse me, I can lurk. I love that word.
Yeah.
I can lurk in these various breakout rooms. Just the two of you, just the four of you, or however many in this room are discussing a situation. They're role-playing a negotiation. They're discussing something that's going on in work and getting feedback from their colleagues. And this is really about as experiential as you can get. It's synchronous learning. I have, as I said, in a negotiation course, I have had students have negotiations in this kind of format, and it's been very successsul.
And these tools that you're mentioning are tools actually used in industry to conduct negotiations. So same tools.
Sure. I mean, and the ones that organizations use might be net meeting or something that's more intended for the professional environment as opposed to the school environment. As a professor, I loved using Centra Symposium because it was a very instructor-friendly program where I can literally say, does everybody agree, and hands go up or not. Or a student would make a brilliant comment, and there was a little icon where it looked like the students were clapping. And so, again, is it the same as being face-to-face? No. And I would never agree that that's the case. But the students really had a bonding experience with one another. And it continued. And for those who missed the course that night, they were able to go back and listen to the recording and kind of feel like they were there for the most part. I truly was amazed at, again, given where I was, experiential learning is only face-to-face, where I can bring props and bring role-play scenarios that they do face-to-face, and I certainly changed my mind about it. So again, that to me is like, that's about the best you can get, where you have this real-time interactive learning. Students are discussing things that are important to them, they're role-playing, they're doing negotiations, they're doing simulations, real-time. It's almost the same, I think, almost, as being there. Now, if you don't have that software or internet-based platform available to you, I think there's still a lot more you can do that has that interactivity component, that social component, still synchronous, and that's kind of what I put in the medium category. So for example, whether students are responding in a real-time chat or with their headphones on. And I know Skype, for example, I use Skype a lot, and you can get more than one on a Skype conversation. It's free to anybody. I don't own stock in Skype, I'm just throwing it out there. Whether you have some case studies, current events, even, I've done this before, I've gone to the office of a CEO of a hospital, for example. It's a course on leadership. And I drove to his place. It was about a 20-minute drive. My students were literally all over the world. And I sat with this person and gave him the mic and said, this is his name of person. He's been a very successful hospital administrator for X number of years. He's going to talk about X. And I can bring him to all of these students real time. And the students can, real time say, well, gee, Dick, I had this issue in my organization. How would you have solved it? Or what do you think I should do in this case?
Bringing the expert right into the classroom, even though the classroom is dispersed all over.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, to be fair, I had students in San Diego and Haiti. Some of them had to wake up at odd hours. We tried to compromise and find times that were as close as possible to fitting everybody's schedule. But, you do what you got to do.
And you can record it for those who can't make it.
And and I'll tell you what, initially when I started teaching in that program at my previous school, a lot of people said, oh, Suzanne, you can't do that. The whole reason students are involved in this program is for the flexibility and the autonomy it affords them. They're not going to want to meet on a weekly synchronous basis. Okay, let me ask them. And all of them, every single one of them said, when my schedule permits, I would rather that than not. That it added so much to the gelling of the course, to learning from one another, to the feeling of really having this experience together, as opposed to being a very individualized, let me do my assignment, email it to the professor, oh look, I got an A. And that's very isolating.